When customers search for something like best cabinet maker in your area or whatever service you provide in your area or your city, you need to make sure your business is showing up in those search results. And how do you do that? Local SEO, which is what this Tavallo video is all about. In this video, we're going to cover what is local SEO and why is it important, and how is it different from traditional, or what I refer to sometimes as old school SEO. Then we'll talk a little bit about several of the key elements of a strong local SEO strategy. And we might even get a little bit into how AI is changing things in SEO, but maybe not in the way that some people think, because we're not in the matrix yet. AI is not that advanced yet. But first, let's start by talking about what is local SEO. The short answer to what is local SEO is it's the processes and techniques used to get a business to rank higher on location-based queries on search engines and maps apps. So if you're already familiar with the term SEO, you know it stands for search engine optimization. Every business should have an online presence that includes a website, some key profiles like Google Business Profile, and other social media profiles, and lots of other listings we'll talk about more a little later. And optimizing all of that online presence to show up in search is referred to as local SEO. So that's what is local SEO. Before we get too far into more of the key elements and everything, though, let's talk about why is local SEO important. When someone's looking for your service, they're looking to buy your service or your product, chances are they're going to a search engine. According to research, 80% of consumers use search engines to find information about local businesses on a weekly basis. That's a lot of searches. And there's a couple ways people get there. Sometimes people go straight to the search engine and they type in a search term or question related to what you do. This is sometimes referred to as a query. And so you might hear the term search query. So this might look something like this. So best cabinet maker near me, like I referred to earlier. Or fill in, like I said, your service area. The results that show up after a search like that are based on who has the best local SEO. It's not necessarily about even who the best provider is, because the best business for that niche could have a terrible online presence and they're not going to show up. It's who has the best local SEO is who's going to show up. What the algorithms actually try to do is show the best business, but the only way it knows is based on what online factors it's given. And that's what local SEO is. Another way people get to a search engine when they're doing their research is they might ask a friend who they recommend for the service that they're looking for, hopefully your service. And then they go do their own research to verify what they've been recommended. So they end up at the search engine anyway. And they pull you up by name. You need to be able to be found by name, and they're looking to verify what they heard from their friend. Either one of those ways, whether they go straight to the search engine and search and maybe find you, or they get there by trying to validate a recommendation, people are looking for you and what you do on the internet, and you've got to show up in your local market online. It's that important. So you might have heard of SEO before, and you might be wondering what's the real difference between local SEO and traditional SEO. Well, we've heard this before. We've heard things like, can't you just slap some keywords on my website and make it show up at the top? Way back in the day, it might have been that easy, but it keeps getting more and more sophisticated. 20 years ago, a search for custom cabinets probably would have shown a list of websites with the best general information about custom cabinets. Now, the search algorithms process queries in a way that predicts a person's intent for what they're searching. It factors in location data if necessary, and it shows answers based on what it predicts the person is looking for. So a search for custom cabinets is probably going to show a map of local businesses that build custom cabinets. But a search for something like how to build custom cabinets is going to show a broader list of results that are like how-to instructions and video type of content. To further illustrate this, here's a table of some of the key differences between local SEO and traditional SEO. First of all, there's still a place for traditional SEO, and there's even some overlap between traditional and local in practice. But there are some key differences in the importance of these features: target audience, ranking factors, the primary goal of the strategy, and the SERP features. So SERP stands for Search Engine Results Page. When someone searches, the search results page shows results in different ways depending on what the intent is, and so there's different features that it shows. With traditional SEO, let's go back to target audience. The target audience is broad. It's national or even global in nature. In local SEO, the audience is very local, within a certain mile radius of a physical location or service area. It's very localized geographically. Moving on to ranking factors, traditional SEO focuses on things like keywords, backlinks, and user experience. That's what UX is, more so than local SEO does. But local SEO focuses more on things like Google Business Profile and reviews than traditional SEO. There's a lot of overlap in all those factors, but like I said, traditional focuses more on some than local, and local more on others than traditional. The primary goal in traditional SEO seeks to get website traffic and visibility, while local SEO focuses on getting calls or leads or foot traffic. Both lead to the objective that the business is trying to get from that traffic, but it's different for traditional versus local. The SERP illustrates the algorithm's understanding of these differences by displaying different features. So for search features, for traditional, a user obviously wants broader, more general information that is displayed on featured snippets and things like that, while local SERPs display maps that show local businesses or maybe other types of ads and things based on what the user's intent is. It's important to understand these differences, and it's also important to understand the primary objective of any search engine is to give their users the best answer to their questions as quickly as possible. And that's why these algorithms are so sophisticated now to understand the difference between local or broad intent and other intent as well. So how does a search engine, let's stick with Google, the most popular, obviously. How does a search engine determine which businesses rank higher? First of all, let's talk about proximity. When a user is allowing their location to be known through a device like a phone, search engines will use the location data of the user along with the location data of businesses in the area to give the user the closest and or the most relevant solution to their search query. I mentioned phones. It's not just phones, because even computers, when you're sitting at your desk in your house or at your workplace, Google is able to pinpoint location data to know the general area that you're searching from. So proximity is one of the core ranking factors, how Google ranks local businesses. The next one is relevance. When a user is located in a particular proximity of businesses that might be the best match for the user's query, search engines will put the most relevant businesses at the top. Factors like keywords and categories and descriptions and things like that on Google Business Profile and other places have a tremendous influence on this relevance factor. And then another one is prominence. This is things like reviews, backlinks, citations. When more than one business meets the criteria of proximity and relevance, the search engines will then distinguish between factors like online reputation, which is reviews, backlinks, and citations, which is also known as business listings. It'll use these factors to determine which businesses would be best for the user. Another way Google determines local business rank is through behavioral signals. And this can refer to things like click-through rate, also known as CTR, mobile engagement, so how much engagement the online presence is getting with users when they do a search and see the result. Are they engaging with it? Also, click-to-call interaction, things like that. So Google can see how much of those types of engagement a business is receiving when the business shows up in the search results. And it uses that to determine which businesses, that's one of the factors it uses to determine which businesses should deserve a higher rank. So the more engagement you get, the more you might be rewarded with higher rankings. The next one is personalization. These factors would be things like search history or browser history or prior engagement with the websites or other listings of a particular business. So if I happen to have already been to a particular cabinet maker's website and maybe clicked on their search result from a previous query that I entered, then the algorithms are going to factor that into, hey, this particular person is searching for cabinets again. They've been to this website before. We're going to show them this result they've been to before, so they can choose if that's where they're trying to get back to or if they want to choose a different result. So personalization is also one of the factors that goes into local business rankings. Also, offline influence. When Google's able to track how many people are visiting particular areas, like particular offices or store locations, things like that, it can use that as a factor, as a factor that ranks some businesses higher than others. Again, these are kind of in different priority, but all of these are various factors that go into it. There's literally hundreds of factors that Google can use to determine search ranking, and this is just a glimpse into how complex it can be. So what are the most important things for a local business to do for their local SEO strategy? Like I alluded to before, it isn't as easy as slapping some SEO on your website and calling it a day. There are some key elements to prioritize. First is Google Business Profile. Then there's also on-page SEO, which is basically the SEO that gets done on your website. Then there's local citations. We're going to go over all of these in more detail, but I'm going to run through this list first. Then there's localized content and backlinks. And then there's some other things we can talk about like voice search and long tail keywords. Let's go into these one at a time. First, Google Business Profile. Set up or claim your profile. So sometimes a business profile might have been created by a user or directly by Google when someone happened to notice, hey, there's a business here, and maybe they submitted to Google, there's a business here. In those cases, you might need to claim your business profile. If there's a profile already out there for you and you don't already have ownership of it or access to it, then you might have to claim your profile to begin managing it. If there's not a profile at all, you'll need to set one up from scratch. And there's instructions for how to do that you can follow to get one set up. The next thing that's really important is to verify your profile. Once a profile has been set up or claimed from the previous step, it has to be verified to open up all the features that are available for you to manage when you have access to it. So follow the steps. Again, Google has steps you can follow to follow the steps to prove to them basically that you are the business owner, that the business is real, everything's legit, so that you can get full access. Next, you want to define your categories, your services, your descriptions, all the things that are available in those management settings of the profile. So after getting full access to all the features available, you can designate which categories your business fits into. Things like cabinet maker or kitchen remodeler, it's different for every particular niche of business. From there, you can list any specific services that describe what you do. Like for cabinets, it might be custom built-ins or cabinet installation. Then in the description area, you have the opportunity to write anything relevant about your business to describe who you are, what you do, why customers should choose you, things like that. So make it much more custom messaging specific. You literally get to write in those descriptions. It's also super helpful to do some keyword research to optimize these details of your Google Business Profile. The next thing is get reviews. Reputation management is a significant factor in local search rankings, and that means reviews. Google reviews being the most important. So it's very, very important to ask for reviews from every customer and respond to every review you get in a professional manner, even if they're not so good. Sometimes everybody gets a bad review. Sometimes can't make everybody happy. It's very important to respond in a professional manner even to those. And though sometimes those things can also be disputed. Responding to those reviews shows users you're engaged and care about your customers, which also is showing Google that you can be trusted with higher rankings. So Google sees that engagement through the reviews, and it uses that to determine, is this a business that can be trusted with higher ranking? So reviews, very, very important. The next thing is post content. There's several features within Google Business Profile for posting content. Use as many of them as possible to populate as much relevant content to your profile as possible. It can be updates that are similar to social media posts. It can be photos, it can be products, it can be Q&A content. There's all kinds of ways to post relevant content that provides context for Google to know what your business is about and how it should rank your business based on all the various searches that people do. Okay, Google Business Profile. That's a really high-level overview of how what all to do inside that key factor. The next one let's talk about is on-page SEO. What is this? Well, website structure. Your website structure helps Google clearly understand what your business is about. And this is things like the pages, the descriptions, the URLs and titles and all the things. So your website should have a home page, an about page, service pages, a contact page, and potentially some other pages depending on your type of business. And every page should have proper URLs, titles, descriptions, and all the relevant keywords and things. So there's a lot that goes into what we can generally categorize as website structure for on-page SEO. The next thing is location-specific pages. So businesses with more than one location should definitely have a unique page for each location with information that's specific to the location on each of those pages. It's also important to strategically use location-based keywords relevant to your business throughout the website. Next thing to talk about is schema markup. This is a coded way of telling search engines certain pieces of information in a structured way, which is why schema markup is also referred to sometimes as structured data. So quite a lot of different information can be included in schema markup. If you've ever heard of this before, it's basically it gets written into the code. It's a structured way of putting data into the code of the website so that the algorithms pick up on it. Some common pieces of this information are the business name, address, phone, geographic coordinates, hours, and things like that. So it's a really cool way of telling the algorithms directly what your business is about or what the particular page the algorithm is on your website is about. So anyway, schema markup. These are some of the important parts of on-page SEO as one of the key elements for a strong local SEO strategy. The idea here with all of this on-page SEO is to lead users and Google, obviously, to the best answers by having information well organized, well worded, and even hard coded where necessary in order to influence the search rankings. Okay, so that's on-page SEO. Let's move on to build local citations. Now, this isn't like speeding ticket citation. This is the term used to describe anywhere a business is listed online. More specifically, anywhere a business is listed by name, address, and phone, also known as NAP, N-A-P, which I'll get to in a minute. So search engines use citations to determine which businesses have the most authority or trustworthiness, because the more places a business is listed online, the more authority it's established for itself, the more footprint it has, and that sort of thing. So here's some examples of citations, like Google Business Profile is a citation. It's a listing. Apple Maps, Facebook, Yelp, Bing, Foursquare, Yahoo, Better Business Bureau. There's so many. The list goes on and on. There's hundreds of these as well. So the key to all this is to have consistent NAP. So the key to this local citation part of local SEO is to have consistent name, address, and phone. It's how the search engines correlate the information to your business. If it's not consistent, it gets confused and it doesn't know whether that information still correlates to your business. So sometimes businesses move, or they change phone numbers, or they rebrand altogether, and if the listings don't have consistent information, the algorithm isn't always able to correlate all the listings to the same business if that information is not consistent. So it's very important to keep that up to date and have as many of these listings as possible. And the good news is there's processes and tools to make managing all that way more efficient, because there's so many of them that have varying degrees of significance that collectively are important to have. So there's some cool tools and resources to make managing it all more efficient. Next, let's talk about localized content and backlinks. If you're new to the term backlinks, first of all, it is the term used to describe when one website links to another. So when your site links to another site, it's a backlink for the other site. When another site links to your site, it's a backlink for your site. Getting backlinks to your website boosts your site's authority on search engines. So you want to get backlinks. But first, what does localized content mean? That can be blogs or case studies or guides that are on your website that provide more context for the algorithms to know what your business is about, what your services are about, and it can relate all of that to the local context of your business as well, and that helps that becomes localized content. And then what are good sources of quality backlinks? Quality backlinks can come from the listings and directories you're on. Some of those provide an opportunity for you to put in what your website is, and that's a link to your site. So it's a link from another site to your site, which is a backlink for your site. Another one is doing guest blogs or getting published on other publications. So when you do that, you can potentially include a link to your site in that content from someone else's site. So again, a backlink to yours. And then another one is paid sponsorship. Sometimes when you just pay for an ad to show up in certain places, though that sponsorship or ad can link to your website and provide backlink juice, as we call it. And then there's also the idea of writing linkable content. And what that means is write content on your site that is so good, other people will find it and link to it on their own without ever having to be asked. So if your website has good, strong content that others will link to, then without you even having to do anything else, then that's good linkable content, as we refer to it. Another thing to note about all of this is the more competitive your market is for your local business niche, the more important it'll be for your website to have this localized content and as many backlinks as possible. Localized content and backlinks. Next, let's talk about some of the other tips we mentioned before, like voice search optimization. The biggest reason small businesses should pay attention to voice search is 58% of consumers are using voice search to find a local business at least once a year. That's a really big deal, and more people are getting used to it and using it all the time. And some things to note about voice search. Voice searches are more conversational, while text searches, when someone enters text to do a search, those are more keyword concise. For example, a voice search might be, how do I get a broken cabinet door hinge repaired? While a text search for the same thing might be cabinet door hinge repair. That's just kind of user habit. Users are less likely to say their search or question in the form of a question if they're having to type it out, and it's just a difference between the two. It's best to be optimized for both the conversational and the keyword search types. So one way to optimize for conversational as well as keyword variances is to target long tail queries, which is the other tip we want to talk about. Long term is the term used to describe longer search queries, which also tend to be more conversational. So using the same example as I did before, a long tail keyword search might be how to fix a broken cabinet hinge, or it might be how to fix a broken hinge on a cabinet. Writing content to specifically address keyword phrases in that manner and being more conversational in the tone of how the answers are delivered helps a business optimize for more possible searches. So that's voice search and long tail keyword tips. Next is tracking and measuring. You can do all the work we've talked about so far, but without tracking and measuring, it'll be like shooting in the dark to know what's working. I don't care if a human is using a traditional search engine to type in a search or if they're talking to an AI-powered robot straight out of the Jetsons. Local SEO is what connects the real world with the digital world for small businesses. If you don't know what the Jetsons is, that's an old cartoon, by the way, if you're not old enough to know what that is. So where is AI making a significant difference, making a significant impact on local SEO? The biggest impact we've seen so far is in automation and efficiency. It's really where the practice of SEO has already changed the most. There's all kinds of AI-powered tools that are making it possible to do literally everything faster, from research and analysis to creative work and repetitive task automation. So yeah, SEO is changing in those regards, but it isn't going anywhere anytime soon for local businesses who want customers to find you. So local SEO is still very important. It's still very important for you to have a broad and strong online presence through all that we've talked about to this point. And it's still very important for it to be optimized in a way that search engines, algorithms, and AI bots and all the things can find that information and show your information in search results. Okay, so let's wrap up with some key takeaways. First, every local business should be doing local SEO to reach customers. It's very important. Customers are doing searches. You need to be showing up. That's it. Next, traditional website SEO that you may have heard of is not the same as local SEO. We talked about some of the key differences between the two. It's important to know that because if your SEO strategy doesn't include the local factors, then it might be you might be doing a little bit more of the traditional SEO methods. That's not going to help you as much as if you were doing the local SEO factors that we're talking about. Next, there are many, many factors to understand and implement for successful local SEO. We went over a handful of the key factors. There's so much more to it. And it's important to learn and understand as much of it as possible and implement as much of it as possible. And last but not least, AI is making everything more complex and efficient. And ultimately, it should be a good thing. I hope you found all that information useful. It's kind of a high-level, broad overview of local SEO in general, and we'll definitely be creating more content with more specifics about even some of the topics that we talked about today. So stay tuned.